Well, it seems that today we got an update in the ongoing saga between Ubiquiti Inc. and Brian Krebs, the security researcher. Some new information has come to light. We're going to take a look at that new information. We're going to kind of talk about the history of everything that's led up to this, and then I'm going to give you some thoughts on what I think about this whole mess, right? And hopefully this is the final chapter in this particular saga. Posted on Krebs on Security today, final thoughts on Ubiquiti. Last year, I posted a series of articles about a purported breach at Ubiquiti. My sole source for that reporting was the person who has since been indicted by federal prosecutors for his alleged wrongdoing, which includes providing false information to the press. Now, that in itself is a completely different story that we have yet to get an update on, but if anyone has an update on what's been happening with that federal indictment of Nicholas, whatever his name is, I forget what his actual name is, put that down in the comments below, because I'm curious if there's been any progress or news about that particular piece of this story. Krebs goes on to say, as a result of the new information that has been provided to me, I no longer have faith in the veracity of my source or the information he provided to me. I always endeavor to ensure that my articles are properly sourced and factual. This time, I missed the mark, and as a result, I would like to extend my sincerest apologies to Ubiquiti, and I have decided to remove those articles from my website. So, I don't have any sort of crystal ball into the inner workings of Ubiquiti. I have not been really following this lawsuit. I don't know what is public information and what is not public information, but personally to me, this reads like the result of a settlement. Okay, I don't know that. This is just pure speculation on my part, but it was so direct and to the point and concise that it seems like this is what Brian Krebs had to do as part of some sort of settlement with Ubiquiti. So we'll get back to my thoughts on that in a second, but first let's take a look at the history of kind of what's happened here, and I will do this very, very briefly. The original video that I posted on this topic was April 1st, 2021. And this is when Ubiquiti was originally breached. We received the news of the breach. I think it happened in like December of 2020. And then the news came out from Brian Krebs in April of 2021. In this video, I talked about how to secure your Ubiquiti account, which is actually all still good information. I'll put links to all these videos down below if you guys want to watch the sort of full saga as it unfolded over the past couple of years. But the long and short of it is that Brian Krebs came out with an article talking about the fact that Ubiquiti was compromised. The information that he received came from an anonymous source, and as a result of that information coming to light, Ubiquiti, the share price of Ubiquiti dropped a lot, and we're talking like 25% overnight from like, I think it was hovering around $389, dropped all the way down to about $289. And here we can see that drop right here, April 1st, March 26th, it was $389, April 1st, it was $289, right? So it dropped about 25%, literally overnight, and has never really recovered back up to that super high, close to $400 mark since then. Right now, it's hovering at about 311, and a lot of that is not due to this breach. A lot of that is just due to, the market and stock shortages and chip shortages and supply chain issues and that sort of stuff. All tech companies are, they haven't been where they were at their best. So essentially, we got the news that Ubiquiti had been hacked, and later on, let's move forward in time here. We got to this video. This is from December 2nd, 2021. So what, about 8 months after I posted the first video, and around this time, it came to light that the Ubiquiti whistleblower, the guy who had fed all of the information to Brian Krebs, turns out he was actually the guy who did it. He was the guy who did it, right? He was the guy who actually hacked Ubiquiti. He was not getting Ubiquiti to pay whatever ransom he was asking for. I think it was something like 60 Bitcoin, if I remember correctly. And since they did not pay that, he then leaked all of that information as a whistleblower, pretending to be a Ubiquiti insider when in fact he was the actual one who did the hack. Which of course made everyone say, oh, I understand what happened now, and boy, that sucks for Ubiquiti, and man, Brian Krebs also got duped, and but at the time it's like, well, he got a pretty interesting source that had some interesting like whistleblower information. I'm sure he vetted the source. he was duped though, right? He did not know that the source that he actually vetted, which was a security guy working at Ubiquiti, was the actual guy who did the hack. He didn't have any way of knowing that, and certainly, the hacker is not going to come out and tell him that. He's doing this on purpose to purposefully hurt Ubiquiti. So during this time, Ubiquiti did save face a bit with this new information coming to light, and we all kind of thought, well, that's the end of it. Ubiquiti, it sucks that this happened to them, but, Brian Krebs was just reporting on information that he thought was good at the time, and, what you gonna do? Well, fast forward again, and now almost a year after the initial breach, or the initial news of the breach, so on April 8th, 2022, I did a live stream with Tom Lawrence, and we talked about some new news that had come out in that Ubiquiti was now suing Brian Krebs as a result of the article that he wrote. And again, it's a type of thing where, he's a journalist, and it looks bad for a multi-billion-dollar corporation to sue a cybersecurity blogger for information that he at the time thought was legitimate, and as a journalist, got some whistleblower information and published that information. Yes, it did hurt Ubiquiti, but do you blame Brian Krebs for that, or do you blame, the guy who actually did the hack and then duped Brian Krebs? Brian Krebs is kind of in the middle of these two, the hacker and Ubiquiti, and he got duped. He straight got duped. Like, there's nothing more to say about that part of it, but Ubiquiti decided to sue him anyways, and then that's where we come to today, where he has put out his final thoughts on Ubiquiti, and he deleted the old articles. So overall, this is a really interesting story. I will put links to all of those various videos down in the description below if you kind of want to go back through and sort of watch that as it unfolded. But let's just sort of wrap this up as far as my final thoughts on this chapter of the whole Ubiquiti versus Brian Krebs thing. Again, it seems pretty clear to me that Brian Krebs had to put out this statement because of a settlement. And again, I don't have a crystal ball into the inner workings of Ubiquiti, but that's how this reads to me, and the fact that he deleted his old posts also probably means that was a stipulation of the settlement as well. We don't have any idea, monetarily if Brian Krebs was hurt by this, but, typically in a lawsuit situation, I don't know if Ubiquiti was actually suing him for any monetary damages. Certainly Brian Krebs is not a billionaire that would be able to recover the loss of $4 billion worth of market capitalization that Ubiquiti suffered as a result of the news that he posted. But maybe they were trying to get something out of him. I don't know. Maybe they were just trying to get out of him this concession that he screwed up and, remove those original posts off his blog post. But as part of this type of legal settlement, oftentimes the loser of the lawsuit has to pay the winner's legal fees as well. So maybe that's part of this and we don't know about it. That's just something we can all only just speculate on. So again, let's look at this from all angles. Krebs did what he thought was right at each stage of this process, right? When he received the initial whistleblower information, as a journalist, I would hope that he properly vetted the guy, found out that, yes, this is someone who works for Ubiquiti, yes, this is someone who's on their security team, and it seems like the information he had matches up with, the information about the breach that had come out. He had no way of knowing that he was being duped, right? That being said, once it came to light that the whistleblower was in fact the guy who had duped Krebs on security, he could have also at that point said, you know what, hey, I was wrong, and I'm going to take down these posts, or at least amend the post to say, hey, listen, my guy was the guy who did the hack. Although, as a journalist, right, in terms of confidential sources, he maybe wouldn't want to give up that source, just like that when that information comes out, because there's other people that are probably sources for Krebs that would look at that as like, oh, he turned on that guy real quickly. Maybe I won't go to Krebs with this information that I have, that could potentially help Krebs. So again, it's like, what do you do, right? You just have to go with the best information that you have at the time. Now let's look at it from the angle of Ubiquiti. So Ubiquiti definitely suffered damages, right? There is no doubt at all that Ubiquiti suffered a lot of damages as a result of the article that Krebs wrote. Whether that article was valid and based on valid information or not, you cannot deny the market value of Ubiquiti's stock price dropped. It tumbled overnight, like a lot, right? So they're never going to recover those damages from a security blogger, but perhaps they just sued him for exactly this, for the apology, for the concession that he did something incorrectly, and for removing those previous articles. But like in that case, you know, I've been reporting on this as it goes as well. Like, can Ubiquiti sue me to take down my videos on this subject? I mean, how far would they go with something like this? It seems that they got Brian Krebs to concede to at least pull down the articles and give a public apology to Ubiquiti. We have no idea if there was any sort of monetary settlement involved with this apology as well. And, you know, again, I'm only speculating that this apology is a result of a settlement in the first place, but it really kind of seems like it is. So again, a lot of this comes down to, as a journalist, when you receive information, how far do you go before you publish that information? How secure and confident in that information do you have to be before you post something that could be potentially damaging to a large corporation or an individual or anything like that? And that is a question that, I mean, I don't have an answer to. I think you kind of just go with your gut and based on the information that you have at any given time. So in this situation, like, who was in the wrong, right? Who was in the wrong in all of this? I don't think anyone was really in the wrong, except for the hacker, right? The hacker who did the hacking is definitely in the wrong because he actually stole information from Ubiquiti. He pretended to be a whistleblower and fed bad information to Brian Krebs, which started this entire ball rolling. So I don't fault Brian Krebs for what he did in any of this. I also don't fault Ubiquiti for anything that they did in any of this. You know, they were acting in their own best interests all along the way. First, by not disclosing that they had been breached because of the security ramifications of doing that. Second, by suing Krebs because they wanted to, seems, save face on, you know, the stuff that the stuff that he had written about them. And now it turns out that, you know, I guess they won. You know, he wrote an apology and he took down the old stuff. So yeah, there's really not much more to say about it. That closes the chapter. Again, I am really interested to see what actually happens with the federal indictment of the hacker, but that will be a story for a different day. Now, what are your thoughts on this entire Ubiquiti breach and Brian Krebs saga? Let me know down in the comments below. I'm super curious to hear what you think about this. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please click subscribe. My name's Chris with Crosstalk Solutions, and thank you so much for watching.